Sorry. I don't know if it's my podcast anymore. I feel like it's turning into your podcast, which I like.
Why?
I don't know. Because I don't like doing the intros. I always feel like the intros are weird. Like, hi, welcome to the Money Shop. I'm your host. I don't like that kind of
I'm
stuff.
your host, Bobby Hoyt.
Yeah,
You need
you know
a
what I mean?
voice like that. What would your intro be? Just really quickly while we're recording. You could
What?
test a few different options. Like a radio show, Drive Time Live
How do
with
radios?
Bobby Hoyt.
How do they talk? How does a radio host talk? I really don't know.
What is it? What comes to mind?
I don't know. I'm on the spot here. Hello, this is Bobby Hoyt, your charismatic and friendly, likable host for the Money Shop podcast. I'm here with Ashley and Ariel, who are two people that I pay to tell me what to do, and I like them a lot. I don't know. I kind of faded there, but that would be what I would do.
Good energy starting. That was great.
Yeah, well, I had to channel something.
You're a professional.
Yeah, sometimes in life when you're put on the spot, you have to deliver. Mm-hmm. Can we start the podcast? Has it started? This is it.
Oh, okay. It's recording right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I was being for real. These are people that I pay to tell me what to do and control my life, but in a good way, like not in like a hurtful way. So today I believe we're talking about integrators, right?
Yes. The podcast title is going to be What the Heck is an Integrator?
What the heck is an integrator? I've been trying to figure that out, but I guess long story short, we have a EOS system installed in this company. I don't even know if that's how you say it. We run on EOS here, and we are not affiliated with them in any way, so please don't sue us, EOS. But in the EOS system, you have a two-person team, essentially, in the company, in the leadership team, and you have your visionary, which is your CEO, and then you've got your integrator, which is your head of operations. And we have, I think, an embarrassment of riches in this company because we have a lot of integration people in the company. So Ashley was the integrator for the Bottom Line that recently joined Stellar Brands. Ariel is the integrator for Stellar Brands. And so we just have a duo of operations people that can, apparently I think the entire job is just to keep me on track mostly and deal with other people, but like mostly just to keep the visionary from like running the business into the ground with too many dumb ideas, right? Is that right?
I mean, I think that's a pretty good assessment of it. Ashley, what do you think? You've been an integrator for longer than I have. So can you tell us more about what it means to be, what the role means?
Yeah, of course. And Bobby, I just want to say, it's not to keep you from having dumb ideas. It's just to keep them grounded.
Ashley,
they're not dumb ideas.
You're so nice to me.
They're a great idea.
When I am self-deprecating, I am just doing it in a joking way. But every time I do it, you're like, Bobby, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. And
No,
I think it's one of the very nice things about you, but you don't have to be that nice to me. You can, Ariel's not. So
I'll do better.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, our integrator is typically the person that's bringing like more of the discipline, the clarity, the accountability, and all of that stuff to our leadership team. And your integrator is typically the person that's like your glue and everything, keeps everything together, generally going to be your tiebreaker and stuff like that.
Yes. And the way we have it set up, like as we expand Stellar Brands, I think this is actually very interesting. So Ariel is the integrator for Stellar Brands writ large, basically, where we have a bunch of courses and coaching programs and communities and all that kind of stuff. Ashley, when TBL came over, you were running TBL and you're still doing that. You're just basically sitting in that same operation spot. So in theory, I think with EOS, the way that it's supposed to happen is that you have in a multi-branded company, you have like an integrator and then you have kind of a series of integrators like that are in that layer that actually run the companies. So I think that was a huge advantage that we had when TBL came in, that we had somebody that actually knows how to run it, because I don't know how to run it. So thank you for doing that and being there. What are we talking about in this podcast? Is it just me riffing? Do you want me to just riff?
No, I've got an agenda to go over, and I'll just go over really quickly the bullet points of what I want to cover. So what the role means, what the integrator visionary relationship is like, what the day-to-day looks like for an integrator, struggles and challenges in that role. These can be like broad or personal ones. And then Ashley, how she and I have both grown into the integrator role.
One of the things that I think is interesting about the EOS system in particular, I think it was the Traction book that I was reading. It was one of those first ones. I never remember which one it was, but it said in the beginning, like, if you're going to take this EOS system and implement it in your company, it was like, if you're a visionary, prepare to be free. And then it was like, if you're an integrator, prepare to be stressed. And that is actually, I felt bad about that for a while And now actually seeing, because what's weird about where we are now is like I'm starting to get separated from the people in the company in a way, which is very uncomfortable, but I'm getting used to it. But then it's just like there's all this stuff that happens that seems pretty stressful, like on a daily basis, that just the two of you handle. And then I kind of like hear about things through the grapevine, but sometimes I'm like, that sounds hard. But I think that the two of you are wired apparently for that kind of stuff, right? Maybe. I don't know. How did you find yourself in an integrator role? And is it something that you always wanted to do?
Let's see. In the terms of the way that EOS calls it an integrator, I would say probably yes, because I've been in this very kind of same role in other places too. And I loved it. Like there was a lot about it that I loved. But then at TBL, we just had a situation that kind of opened, and I was like, well, I want to put my hat in the ring for that. And then it worked
like someone was
out.
fired or something.
Someone
I actually don't know what the story was.
Yeah, I don't actually remember because gosh, it's been 3 years ago. Like it's been a minute. But I think it was kind of more like a mutual thing. But the opportunity was open, and I was like, well, I loved what they were doing, and that sounds like a fun thing. So let's try this.
Yeah.
And it stuck.
Okay. And then Ariel, how did you find yourself in the integrator role? I know, but
yeah, the big reveal on this. Well, I've been working with Bobby since 2018, I think, as a freelance editor and writer. And I guess I feel awkward saying this, but did really well. And just, you were like, offered me more opportunity to be a more permanent part of the team with a full-time W-2 role, head of content. And then there was a role opened up for head of operations. And this was prior to us adopting EOS. And so that head of operations seat was essentially what I'm doing now as an integrator. This is a much more defined role though, as an integrator. And then when we adopted EOS, find out exactly what that integrator role is. And yeah, that's the journey for me. Ashley, I'd be curious to hear your experience was when you accepted the role of integrator. For me, I went through some like personality assessments or something to see if it was the right fit. And, one, did you go through those things and like what made you excited about the job and like make you feel like you were a good fit for this?
Yeah. So the assessment that you're talking about is EOS's crystallizer test.
Yes.
And it tells you basically go through, you answer a series of questions as honestly as you can. And it breaks down whether you're more likely to be an integrator or a visionary. And my integrator score was in the very high 80s. I want to say
wow.
It was 88 or 89. And I was like, sold. Okay. So maybe I'm on the right path. So I went through that and I resonated with it. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And then I started going through, all of the training and stuff for it. And I was like, sold. I'm home.
I think my score was borderline. It was like, you might be an integrator. It wasn't like you are an integrator. I had a decent amount of like points or however scoring on the visionary side, but it was more on the integrator side, but not like definitely not in the high 80s or anything. And I think that's something like I do in the beginning, I had concerns like, is this right for me? If I'm not clearly like falling at that far end of the spectrum. I've since taken that test again, and I do have higher integrator score than I had previously. But the thing that I kind of struggled with a little bit is like, or that I do struggle with in the role is I do get like ideas that kind of the stuff that Bobby does, the like energized ideas and like, I don't know that I would call it vision, but like things that I want to do and explore. And so I think what's neat about Stellar at least is that I do get to have some freedom to do those things a little bit within this role, the way it's set up. One of the responsibilities of an integrator is special projects, which I think is like it's so vague, but it's also so appropriate. And that part of that responsibilities list, for me at least, feeds that like, you have an idea that you want to go do something or build something, it falls into that special projects. So it's not entirely like this very like rigid operations only. The role can fit the company that you're at and the needs of the company that you're at, which I think is really an interesting thing too. And then I think also one thing that we'll get to is, an integrator works side by side with the visionary, and the way that the two of you work together is very much like what the company needs at that point. And so I think that fits where we are right now, with what Bobby's doing. Yeah.
I think both of you have the right skill set for what you're doing, to be honest with you, because I think with Stellar generally, I think we're like, I'd say a pretty creative company. We like to create and we like to build a lot of new stuff. We're very entrepreneurial. And I think that there's a lot of I don't know, idea driven stuff that we do here. But then on the TBL side, that's an accounting firm and you have to have your shit together real hard. You have to know what the heck is going on because you're dealing with people's finances. You're dealing with this very nuts and bolts type of work. And so I think Ashley, for you, that makes a lot of sense just with the way, just even with the compliance stuff, right? I hate freaking compliance, but I'm trying to be compliant in every way that I can. And I think that's really important that you have that. I think it's cool that we have that kind of blend of personalities because we absolutely need that, I think, for the accounting and bookkeeping side of what we do. But then we also need that creative energy that you bring, Ariel, for the Stellar side. And I would say for me, as a visionary, there's a lot of different types of visionaries or CEOs. I don't consider myself to be a super high, volume idea person. I have ideas, but I feel like I'm somewhere kind of in maybe not a gray area necessarily. I'm definitely a visionary according to all the tests and everything. But I also like to know how everything is actually working. I don't like to do any of the operation stuff because I'm terrible at it, but I like to understand how it's working. And I think I think a little bit strategically in some ways, but then when I have the space to think about big ideas and where the company's going, I can do that. But I think there are visionaries out there, or I know there are, that are just ideas and it's just a large volume of ideas all the time, which is why I think the system works really well. EOS is cool because it's kind of flexible. It can account for a visionary that's more like me. It also accounts for a visionary that just is just ideas constantly, And I think that one of the cool things about the integrator role is you basically get to filter all that stuff out, which is frustrating for the visionary, to be honest with you, but it's a good thing. It's you need it, but it's hard to do in the moment.
I think it's been really neat over the past several months seeing the things that we've wanted to do with Stellar start to happen. Mm-hmm. And it's very much, I think, because of EOS and the integrator piece of it, putting a stop to all the ideas that you have, Bobby. And it's not a stop really. It's okay, maybe that's next quarter, maybe that's next year.
Right.
Or refining those a little bit more, giving you a space to get those ideas out. But then we don't necessarily have to do all of them. It's sometimes you just need to get ideas out of your head.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we would be where we are right now if it weren't for the discipline that EOS brings, but also putting the foot on the brakes. I think they say that at some point in some EOS training for integrator. It's you're the healthy brake.
It's right? Frustrating as hell in the beginning. I will tell you, I struggled with it a lot because I was just hey, Ariel, I want to do this thing, or I want to do this series of things. And then you come back and be yeah, I don't think we're doing that. We're going to do that next quarter. And I was God, I want to do it now. But I, as I've seen the process work, it's made a lot more sense to me. And I do know that before we kind of went to this EOS world, I drug the team around on a lot of different journeys, just trying. And it wasn't just ideas that I had. It was more ways to make revenue. I was always just trying to think okay, we can do revenue this way. We can do it this way. So we created a lot of new stuff. We had a lot of new projects all the time and nobody was really telling me no. So, I think the discipline part of it is good. And then what's good about the accounting firm is if I have an idea for it and Ashley says no, I'm okay, I'm just going to listen to her because I don't know if what I just said would work anyway. It might be an awful idea. So I think that system, it works well. Just there is some learning curve stuff.
Yeah. And talking about learning curve stuff, I do want to get into a little bit about how you become an integrator, what the training looks like for that. So Ashley, can you tell us about your experience, becoming an integrator in terms of training, education, anything that, if somebody's listening and they're this sounds like the kind of thing I would be interested in doing, what that looks like?
Yeah, so I actually went through the master class kind of on my own. So they had, at the time, they had one that was kind of just a little bit more self-paced. So I went through that one initially. And of course, Jessica on the team was the visionary at the time. So she taught me a lot of stuff. Of course, I bought every EOS book they had, every new one they've come out with.
They have a lot.
They have a lot. And then last year, I actually got to go through like the live masterclass, and that was incredibly cool. I think the only thing that I missed out on getting to do there was getting to do it in person with, like, obviously a ton of other people that are just like us. But
yeah, I did the same thing. I guess it was, I can't remember the timeline exactly, but it was when we started to implement EOS. I did the master class. I think we did the same like cohort of the master class. Yeah, the online live one. And that was great. Like it, really teaches you a lot about EOS concepts, the tools and everything, and then your role as an integrator working with those tools. One of the things that's been really great for me is it's a company called Authentic. It's a marketing company actually, and they do monthly integrator community meetings. And honestly, that's where I have gotten like the most amount of training, I think, for the integrator role, because it's just you in a room with anywhere from like 40 to 70 different integrators for companies of all different sizes and shapes and industries. They break you off into small groups. And so then you're in like a group of like 5 to 8. And every month you just bring issues and you brainstorm your issues with your other integrators who have different levels of experience, and you can learn so much from that. And I think the thing that's been really interesting, and Ashley, I'm sure you probably would have the same experience, is like one thing you learn very quickly is that all the issues that you have in a business are all the same. Like there's like a handful of core issues. And I remember reading one of the EOS books and they say that somewhere in there. And I'm like, this can't be true. Every company's unique. No, they all have the same issues. And so learning from these other integrators about that, and then learning how to like process them and handle them and everything, has been really, really valuable too for me, for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious with both of you. I don't know if this is on the agenda or not, but I'll start with you, Ashley. What is the hardest thing about being an integrator? What's the most difficult part of this job? Why are you smiling, Ariel?
I don't know. I just like know my answer. Like immediately it comes to my mind, and I'm curious if Ashley's like going to say the same thing or not. That's why I'm smiling.
It better not have anything to do with me. But you can say whatever you want.
It's probably going to have to be the saying no part of not letting the visionary just run with what they want to do. Like having to go back and be like, that's not a right now thing. Let's table that for later. Like Ariel mentioned earlier, like having to put, something on the long-term issues list or having to move it to a different quarter. But the saying no part was probably the hardest because I don't like telling people no.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think that is, yes, that is 100% the same for me, and a little more like it. I've got like deep feelings around it, like personal feelings around it too. Like, cause I'm used to being, I think, the bad parent at home. And so I come to work and I feel like I'm the bad parent who has to say no to people and who has to kind of keep everything like, everything has to run smoothly and, orderly. There's sometimes that I'm like, the freedom of thought and ideas, like that sounds really nice. And having to be the person that says no to stuff is difficult to do all the time. I think the other thing though, too, for me, difficult wise, is it feels like a great deal of responsibility in this role. You are the person who takes care of things when things break. You have to like know how to, you can be the tiebreaker with issues sometimes. And it feels like a lot of responsibility, and it can feel very heavy sometimes. And I think if you aren't careful, it can just become a very stressful job. Everything is solvable. But if you, I think, spend too much time, for myself at least, kind of like ruminating on something, it can become very stressful. And you just have to keep that in check, I think, a little bit.
Okay. So reverse question, Ashley, what is the best thing about being an integrator? Nothing?
No, there's a lot. So let me think about like, what do I like the most?
We can go to Ariel first.
No, that's okay. I can throw mine out there, I think.
That was an integrator move, what you just did. That was an idea I had, and then you integrated it back to me.
You're welcome. We're just trying to show people what really happens.
Yes.
This is how it works. That was planned.
Yeah.
It's that over and over again.
Yes. Probably sometimes there's chaos and a little wildness, but I actually kind of enjoy that, of like bringing stuff kind of back in and being like, okay, let's just deep breath. Let's take our moment, but now let's do the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Ariel, same question. My
answer as far as what is the best part of being an integrator, I think one when things work, when you solve something and make something work. Like that's very exciting. Like I really enjoy fixing things and then or if you start a project and it works out well and it does what it's supposed to do, like that is incredibly satisfying. So that on like a personal level, but then on like the company-wide level, it's just when things start to go well, your company's growing, you're like hitting where you're supposed to be with revenue, or your team is achieving something that they're supposed to be achieving. Like I think you get to take some credit in that role for those wins. And that is a really exciting thing. And, seeing all this stuff come together the way that you wanted it to come together is pretty cool for sure.
Cool. All right. What else do you have, Ariel?
Well, I want to talk about the day-to-day of role, like what the day-to-day looks like for a vision, or not a visionary, what the day-to-day looks like for an integrator, because it is kind of the role can be different. It's like there's a very structured list of things that you do as an integrator, but depending on the company, what those things actually look like in practice can be very different. So when you were working as the integrator over at TBL, let's talk about your week. What did your week look like?
Ooh, my week was very structured.
It kind of has to be,
Yeah, and it really has to be. And we really had a big theory at TBL that if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to get done. So for me, part of my integrator role with TBL was, doing the finance and HR thing. So my every Monday was just very much blocked off, and it was a very much finance day. Tuesday was kind of a team day. If the team needs anything, it was a day to get my rocks done, any sort of projects we're working on. Typically, that's also the same day that I would meet with my visionary and we would do our L10 for leadership. Wednesday was a very heavy team meeting day. So that's, we would do any of our internal meetings, any trainings, things like that. And then Thursday was, again, just kind of like a rock type day, helping the team with something. If there was an issue, or like you said, if something breaks, then you've got to fix it. So yeah, that was kind of my day-to-day over here.
Yeah. I realized that we didn't actually list out what the responsibilities of an integrator at the beginning of this, since we've talked about how they're very clear cut and defined. They're also, I'm looking at mine right now, and they are a little vague at the same time. It's kind of a weird thing to both be like very defined and vague also, but I do want to list them out. So I'll go through mine, and I think these are pretty standard with integrators. So LMA, which is leadership and management equals accountability. You own the P&L or the business plan. You remove obstacles and barriers, special projects, and greater good decision maker. And so, I think the P&L stuff, that's pretty straightforward. Remove obstacles and barriers. That can just be getting departments to work well with one another, smoothing out issues that arise that, there's an issue with fulfillment, making sure that gets taken care of. Something needs to be done in sales to, remove a barrier. You take care of that. Special projects. This is honestly my most favorite part of my job, is just that it, right now I'm doing a lot of stuff with the community. We also doing some stuff with like social media. These are all special projects that I get to do, or it could just be, your rock for the quarter is a special project. And then greater good decision maker, that's kind of that tiebreaker that we've talked about. That is, can you tell me more about that? Because I don't think I've been in a situation yet where I've had to be the greater good decision maker. So tell us about that.
Okay. So I'm trying to think about one of our L10s that we had not too long ago. And I think it was probably before the transition, where we were trying to like work through an issue. And it may have actually even been before like January, where we were trying to work through an issue and we were like, we could not come up with a decision. Like we just could not all be on the same page about what we wanted to do or what we should do, because everybody had really awesome ideas. So it really came down to, okay, well, let's figure out what the actual, what is the tiebreaker? Ooh, and this might be a really good one too. When we did an L10 a couple weeks back, where we did the perfect onboarding scenario for our TBL clients, and I had everybody create their sheet, took everything, put it together kind of like as a tiebreaker so that, we had the best options all across the board, then I think that might be a good example too.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just talking about the different roles that an integrator serves, kind of explaining them a little bit and talking about our day to day. What would you say when you were, working as an integrator was kind of where the most amount of your time was spent?
Trying to drive clarity.
Yes.
Clarity is like the greatest thing that you could ever get, but sometimes there would be situations where our whole team would leave a meeting and we thought everybody was on the same page, and someone would be like, hey, I think maybe I misunderstood. And I think that's why, like, even you guys probably have seen it a lot here too, where I will over explain something a lot because I'm just trying to be sure everybody's like on the same page and we're all understanding the same thing. And I would say clarity.
I think that's you and I are definitely both in that same spot. And I understand you when Ashley will joke sometimes about, I've left 500 notes on this one line item and cash flow or something like that. Sorry for the notes. And it's like, no, please. I love the notes. Thank you. Like, cause I'm the same way. I want to understand exactly what it is that we're trying to talk about. And so for me, that is often like asking a lot of questions. And I think people who aren't used to that can take those questions sometimes as like you're trying to poke holes in what they're doing, or you are questioning their actual like ability or the idea itself. And it's like, no, I just need to understand it. Because you're saying words to me and I hear those words, but like, I just need more of them. So I will ask you the same question 3 more times until it clicks or something. And that's how you remove those obstacles and barriers and get things done that need to be accomplished, getting everybody on the same page. And that actually is a good segue to the same page meeting. This is an EOS tool that is between the visionaries and integrators do regular same page meetings. They get together and Bobby, maybe you can tell us about what happens during a same page meeting.
Yeah, that's where I come in and complain about all the things that I want to complain about and then have somebody else try to fix those problems is what it seems like.
It's a brain dump, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think my experience so far with it has been like, I see a lot of things happening in the company and you see the good things and you see the things you want fixed, but you're in a position where like back in the day, I would have just gone to any individual person in the company and just said like, hey, can you do this? Or can you fix this? Or can we try this? Now I can't do that for good reason. Like it's a good thing that I'm not going in and doing that. And so you basically just collect all of those like mini improvements or grievances or whatever you have. And then you just offload it to the integrator. And then the goal is that ideally you should have enough trust with your integrator where you can just say like, I'm going to give you these things and I'm going to trust that they're going to be done, which I do have that. So it's actually pretty nice because I don't think I spend as much time like stewing over things as I maybe did like 4 or 5 years ago. Like now it's like, if something comes up, it's like, okay, I know I can like talk to Ariel about that. And it'll get at some point, whenever you, Ariel, decide like when it's going to get fixed, it'll get fixed. So I think it's a helpful tool. I mean, I think it it's almost like a pressure release valve or something for me at least. Cause I can just like, okay, I don't have to obsess about this stuff. I don't have to think about it. Like I'll think about the other big picture stuff. Like how do we bring in more business or how do we, whatever, like how do we need to grow in the future? So that's been my perspective of it. I think it's been pretty helpful.
Yeah. We meet every other week for like an hour. And I feel like when in the beginning, we maybe needed more time, but I think we check in pretty frequently during the week in like little, small sessions, just whenever something pops up. But I feel like most of the time, like an hour is plenty.
I think for where we are right now, it seems like more than enough. Honestly, you and I kind of talk a lot in Slack too. So like we do a lot of like just kind of going back and forth about stuff. But I don't know. I just think it's been nice. I always feel bad at the end of them though, because I'm like, I hold a lot of, not as much stress anymore, but like I hold a lot of stressful thoughts. Like there are times in the past where I've had these like, oh, I'm about to go in and drop a bomb on Ariel about like, some major, cause like usually the thing that I'm supposed to be thinking about now is like, what are the things that are going to help us succeed? And what are the things that could potentially kill us as a company? And so I have to bring those things that I think are these like existential risks. And I feel like sometimes it's just an hour of me explaining to you how we could go out of business if X, Y, and Z happens. And then we get to the end of that and it's like, all right, good luck.
You're like, here you go. I've given you this gift.
Here's all the things that I think about at 3 a.m. that keep me up at night that I would like for you to have now. Like that part has been that was a little bit awkward for me to do because I felt bad. Similar to how you feel bad about telling people no, I feel bad about dropping all of this massive heavy stuff on you sometimes. But I think that's the way it's supposed to happen, because I don't think that it would work well if I was dropping that on like people in the company, like I don't think that would be not good. And I've found that, and I think I told you Jess this on a podcast, I've found that I have to be very careful about my interactions with people, because some of the things that I can't think about are so heavy that it can freak people out because they don't have the full context of like what's going on or like whatever. So I've got to be, I had to figure out how to be a lot more disciplined in like who and how I share things. And I think just this system works because it filters it in the right way. Or a lot of the things that I'm thinking are existential maybe aren't actually, because I don't see the moving parts in the business as much as I used to. And so I found, actually talking to you, Ashley, and Ariel, like a lot of the times I'm concerned about something, but it's already being fixed. And I just didn't know that it was being fixed, which is good. That's the way it's supposed to be, I think.
How did you, when you were doing same page meetings with Jess, who is a visionary at TBL, Ashley, how often did you guys meet? Did you feel like Jess was doing what Bobby said he was doing with like dropping, a grenade that's about to go off possibly into your hands, then you've got to detonate it somehow. Detonate? What is that word?
Detonate?
Detonate? Is that when the bomb goes off?
Yeah, that's when the bomb goes off.
What's the opposite of that? You've got to disconnect.
Are you talking about like when you cut the wires of the bomb and then it doesn't explode?
Yeah.
Disarm, when you disarm it?
Disarm it? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Right.
Clearly, you don't know very much about bombs, or haven't seen many like ticking time bomb movies.
That's a positive thing.
I don't watch enough World War II documentaries.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, Ashley, what is back to the question? What was the cadence of same page meetings for you two, and then what was it like, receiving these bombshells?
So we would meet generally once a month on a Friday. We would try to do them on like Friday or Monday or something like that, just whatever worked best with both of our schedules. We both live close enough that we actually did all of these in person.
Oh, nice.
So it wasn't very often that we did them virtual, which was really cool because we would get together. We would follow the same page agenda, doing our normal check-in and how are you? Where's your head at? Things like that. And it was really more about making sure that we were just very in alignment with each other. So that, of course, the team is just going to see, basically unity, and they're not going to see anything that's chaotic. So if something happens or, whatever in the week and you're just very frustrated, that was like the time we would talk about it. Or if there was a big issue we needed to solve, just to be on the same page about, we'd talk about all those things then. And then, of course, if Jessica had a lot of things, she'd share all of that. We'd talk through it. Sometimes it felt a little bit like marriage counseling. Not because we didn't like agree, but it just, it was a lot of like coaching back and forth on how to be better in our roles or, how to best handle a situation.
Yeah, I could see that. I want to go back to this whole, like the Bobby talking about, the giving these stressful issues to the integrator. I feel like when you'll go bring something to my attention, Bobby, it actually doesn't really stress me out. Like it just feels like this is a problem to solve. And there is like something kind of exciting about that. Or you can kind of assess it and like, okay, that's not as big of an issue. Like, what is that feeling that, what do those things feel like to you, Ashley, when you would be presented with something that's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. We need to figure this out. This is a major crisis.
I like crisis.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, whatever.
I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, let's do it because everything's figure outable.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Okay, let's see what else is in here. Struggles and challenges. Struggles and challenges in the integrator role. So we both determined that we kind of like the idea of those challenges, that are put in front of us. But just kind of more like, things that have come up in your role as an integrator that have been really difficult to deal with. Yeah, I'd love to hear anything about that.
The peopling part, kind of trying to keep everybody in alignment, rowing the same direction. Definitely people was a challenge.
Yeah.
Just
Is
making
it still
sure.
a challenge?
No, I wouldn't say it. Not so much. Yeah. I don't know that I would feel like that would be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're all pretty cool.
Yeah. What were the challenges with people in the past?
Really just kind of like doing quarterly conversations. And while you may feel like you were a GWC. If your assessment is that you are not a GWC, it is very hard for the person that, that's under you to really get into alignment with that sometimes. And then trying to like coach them back into, if there is something wrong with the GWC, trying to coach them back into that. Or, if you have two people that are basically conflicting with each other, and then you got to try to like be the calm that comes in and is like, all right, let's talk about our issues. Let's kumbaya together.
Can one of you tell those listening what GWC means? This is another EOS thing.
Bobby.
It's a brutal system of get it, want it, and capacity.
Sounds so simple too.
Yeah. So get it, I guess it's just, I'm not going to say the technical definition of it, but like you understand the role, you understand what you're supposed to be doing. Want it is like you actually want to do those things. Like it aligns with the kind of work that you want to be doing. It's stuff that you either enjoy doing or feel capable of doing. And then the capacity part really is just like, are you actually capable of doing the things that we need you to do? And in the EOS system, I believe if you have a get it, or like if you do, because you do these like in the quarterlies, you do the get it, want it capacity, and you fill it out if you're administrating the meeting, and then the other person that you're talking to also does it. There can be a time where they say they can check the boxes on GW and C, but then if you're managing that person, like the C part might not be checked off, and that one is actually the worst one. Like if you don't have the capacity, EOS recommends that you basically move away from that person and exit them from the company. So that one's kind of, that one's a big deal. Get it and want it have a little bit more flexibility as I understand it. Like if somebody doesn't get it or they don't want it, they can be coached. You can kind of find some middle ground. But yeah, when like Ashley, when you said somebody doesn't GWC, like that's, I think usually the C part of it, or maybe it can be all three, but it's a very strict system, but I do think that it works really well because I can tell you, and Ariel's seen this, like it is so hard. I think assessing people before we did the EOS stuff was really difficult because it's so easy to be like, this person, they could be great if they just can get these things going, right? Like if they could just maybe get a little bit more motivated, or if we could figure out how to find more time for them, or if we can figure out how to get them to overcome whatever issue they have. The EOS system, well, and actually the what the downside of that without having some kind of system to assess people is that you can just let people that shouldn't be in the company, or they're just not a great fit, you can let them stay in the company for a very, very long time, and then it hinders the entire company. Because if like you get one person on the team that doesn't GWC, it impacts everybody that works around them, from top down, sideways, everything. The GWC system, although brutal, I think, is very like clear cut, and it forces you to make very difficult decisions. But I think that it also kind of keeps everybody else in the company happy. I've heard a lot of times that, like, I don't know why I'm just going to the exiting part of the conversation, but like exiting somebody that's not a fit for the company is actually the best way to preserve company culture, because you can do all the rah stuff you want. And like, if we had a physical office, like I could put like beanbag chairs in there and like ping pong and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, people want to work with other people that are like driven and mission aligned and like getting their stuff done. And if you have a person that, even though they're a super fun person or a super nice person, if they're not actually doing their job very well, that drags down everybody, and you see it very quickly. And so like that's very important. So if you can kind of like, it's kind of like tending to a garden is a nice way of how I would put it. Ariel's a gardener.
Only by law.
Yeah. She has a nice garden, but it's basically that, like you're pulling out the weeds. This is an awful way to describe people in your company, but you are making sure that it all works well and is all symbiotic. I need to stop talking before I say something that's really stupid. That is the GWC. That's probably more than you wanted, but that's what it is.
No, that's great. No, I appreciate the answer. I agree that the people stuff is difficult. For sure. I mean, I think I would say it's gotten a little bit easier in some ways. And I think for me, it's just like building the confidence to do the thing that you need to do, the hard things that you need to do, and have those hard conversations, not being afraid of them. And I think I still have some like a little like anxiety moment going into hard conversations with people, just because you want to make sure that you're saying the things that you need to be saying. You want to make sure that you are taking care of them, supporting them the way that they need to be supported, or holding them accountable, because ultimately, if you are managing them, that's on you if you're not holding them accountable well either. And so that is a very difficult part for sure. And it's not like it's numbers. These are people's lives that you're dealing with,
Yeah. It kind of breaks all of the I feel like it breaks like all of the normal social rules. Cause like when you talk to your friends or you talk to like people, you meet people, like you're not getting to the kind of conversations where you're cutting at the heart of who that person thinks that they are. And that is what happens a lot in those conversations, because there are many times where people feel like they are doing something really well or they're achieving at a high level, but they're really not, and they don't realize it. And so as the integrators, you have to go in and say something that you would never say to somebody in a normal, just human setting. Like, you're not doing a good job at this, and this is why. And they might come back and they might not agree, and they probably won't agree. And they'll be like, they'll argue with you. And then you have to basically just like, no, I'm serious. You're not doing a good job. And also you're not a fit, like if it's if it's gone that far. So I think that's incredibly difficult. And I do think though, you get hardened to that over time.
Yeah.
I've noticed that with you, Ariel. You've changed a lot. I'm sure you probably did, Ariel, or did too, Ashley. Like, and I've noticed that with myself. I joke with Ariel all the time. Like, I have friends that own businesses that are kind of more in their 50s or 60s. And when you first talk to them about anything, it seems like they just hate people. Like, they are just like, because they've gone through so many battles over the course of their career with so many different people. When it comes to the context of just talking about people in their company, it's like very, very cold sounding. And so I'm trying to like make sure that I don't turn into that over time, but I can see how it happens, because you do have to have these battles sometimes with people that are very unnatural. And I think you get like calloused, like emotionally calloused in a way when it comes to like just the company part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, I've always thought of myself as a very compassionate person who likes to be very understanding of where people are at. Like, you can have something going on at home and you can come into work and have a really shitty week at work because of what's going on. And I like to make sure I'm always aware that that's a possibility of what's going on. But then that is not always what's going on when people aren't performing well or doing their job well. Sometimes they're just like, they don't want to work or something, and that's a really hard thing to deal with. Or they're not a good fit in the company, and that's just not something you can solve easily. That's like, a culture fit problem isn't something that's easily solvable in a person. You can't really coach them, I think, around that too much.
I have a question around this for both of you. So I saw a thing from Dave Ramsey. I know not everybody loves Dave Ramsey, but I think he is an incredible business owner just because of what he's built. It's a massive company. But I heard him talking one time about like, when you go to business, like you're going to war, pretty much like you're going to battle a lot of the time. And then he was talking about when you get home though, and you're with your family, you have to learn how to like put the battle axe down, like at the door, and then go in and not battle with your family. Because I've noticed that in myself. It's something I've been actively working on, because I've noticed that like my attention span is like a lot shorter. Like, sometimes if my wife is like explaining something to me and like she really wants to talk about it, like I would be like, can we just get to the point and like just like, which is a total jerk thing to do, but it was just
write your issue in a succinct way.
Like, but I realized like, and then she would always not be happy with that, because like, of course, why would you, it's a real a-hole thing to do. And so I've been really trying to work on that. Like, okay, when I'm not like logged in and working, or when I'm just like, I need to figure out how to separate the way that I would talk to people in the business versus like my family, because they don't have anything to do with this battle that I've got going on all the time. So like, has that been difficult? Have you found the same things for yourself of like having to figure out how to separate the two environments? Who do I
I'll
start
let you
with?
go first, Ashley.
Ashley, yeah.
I have a great answer.
Okay.
So you guys at work get more of the Harvard Ashley. Oh, yeah. And then outside of work, everybody else gets like the normal, like little bit of gangster Ashley that's a little unhinged. So that is typically how I separate it.
So you just created like personalities.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like my customer service Ashley is who you guys get. She's very kind all the time. Not that I'm not kind at home. But then like I go out and I'm just, normal me. But you guys get more of the customer service, like bubbly.
I would like to see this kind of gangster unhinged, Ashley. You've piqued my interest.
Yeah, we got to see that. Does that happen on a retreat or something? If we do like.
Well, I think Bobby got to experience a little bit of that at the one restaurant we went to, in Gatlinburg.
Which restaurant?
Oh, I think it was
Was it the
Peddlers.
barbecue place?
Barbecue.
Did we
We
do a
ate
barbecue?
barbecue.
I don't know. I don't remember.
We went to a place with a salad bar.
Yeah, there was a salad bar and the guy about your tennis shoes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was a real weird one because I went into I went into the restroom and this guy was just in there. Like, it's not a place you want to have a conversation about something with people. Usually just go in there and try to get out. This guy was like really, I don't even remember what shoes I was wearing, but I was wearing something, maybe some Jordans or something. And he was like really about my shoes. And he got down on the floor in the bathroom to look at my shoes. And I told Ashley about it. And I didn't know you very well at the time, Ashley. And like you had, it was like, if you had like a machete or something with you, like it would have been like it's like you pulled that thing out and you're like, where is this guy? Let's freaking go. He might be following us home or something. It was like you went into a totally different mode, but I was like, this is awesome. It's like having a bodyguard with you, you know, like, I felt very protected in that moment.
A tiny, like small but mighty bodyguard.
Yeah. I just wanted to be sure this guy wasn't going to like follow us back to where we were staying, or he wasn't going to be some like crazy weirdo. Maybe he was fangirling. Who knows?
I'm hoping he was just really drunk or something, but it was a very strange experience. But then I was like, man, you know, I think Ashley would cut that guy if she had to. And I was like, you know, that's a good person to have on your team, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like this idea of different personas for work and home. And maybe that's something that I need to work on. I don't have good boundaries though. So I don't think I would actually be good at, you know, this is the work Ariel and this is the home Ariel. But I think to your question, Bobby, about, has it like kind of, I don't remember exactly how you asked it, but like, has this bled over into home and how has this, you know, affected relationships with your family? It is definitely like something that I need to be aware of because I think my kids are very much used to me being the person that they can come and vent to about things. And I'll listen, but I go very quickly into trying to solve the problem mode. And I don't have a lot of patience for the, like, I have the same kind of like, get to the point.
Yeah.
What is your actual problem here? And I have the thing that I do that is actually very helpful in those situations is I will literally ask them, do you need me to help you solve a problem? Or do you just want to talk about what's going on? And that for me allows me to kind of, you know, flip a switch to know what I need to be doing, how I need to be present in that moment. But yeah, I think it's made me more, I can be very impatient with things. I'm like, let's just get this, let's just take care of this, let's just solve this. I also think I used to spend a lot of my energy on trying to like micromanage my family and my like home life. And now that I hope I'm not micromanaging anybody here, but now that I am managing people here, I think fortunately that has pulled that micromanaging energy away from my family, which is like a really good thing. And I know my husband is very grateful for it, but I think it catches him off guard sometimes because, you know, he'll have a question. We'll be talking about like where to go out to eat. And I'm like, I really do not care. And he's like waiting, like, no, but I know you're going to care. You're going to, I'm going to make a suggestion and you're going to be like, oh my God, not that place. And it's really like, I know that if I do have an opinion about something, I'm just going to tell you that and you have to accept it. And I'm going to accept whatever your answer is. And yeah, that's been helpful.
Yeah.
The lack of patience listening to my children's problems sometimes. I feel awful as a parent saying that.
I get in trouble with my wife about that, unfortunately. But it's totally my fault because, and I think this is like a male stereotype just generally, but like when she's bringing something to me, I'm like, all right, this is an easy solve. And it's almost like I like pull out a piece of paper, like draw, like, here's how you freaking like, just do this and talk to this person and call this person. And if you do that, then this is going to go away. And she didn't want any of that. Like she wanted me to just like listen to her and like know that I cared about her problem. Like she already had a way that she wanted to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on that because I can see that being very annoying if you went to somebody to just vent something and then they always have some kind of solution for you that cuts off the whole conversation. So, you know, I'll figure that out someday.
Yeah. Hopefully. Let us all know how that goes. Well, we're getting close to time here, just about at time. So I want to wrap things up a little bit. Anything like that? Let's see. What's a good way to close this? What is something that people should, like one thing people should know about being an integrator if they're thinking about it? Of like, Bobby, you can even chime in here. Maybe it's more.
Sorry. Yeah. I've got some advice on like, because I actually just had a conversation with a friend the other day that was thinking about hiring an operations type person. So I've got some stuff.
Perfect. Well, yeah, you can go ahead, or Ashley, if you want to start, go for it.
Okay, I'll go. I had a friend that asked me the other day, he wanted to hire his first employee, and he was trying to figure out like, what kind of employee do I hire? And so as we were talking about, I was like, I feel like there's very different. If you're going to hire, like, let's say a media buyer or something like that inside of your company, that was somebody that comes in for a very specific task. I feel like that's something that is relatively easy to find. Like if you find a specialist that's good at something, you can bring that person in. You're going to train them. Like you have to train them in the way that you want things done. But like for the most part, they should have the level of experience where they're going to kind of know what to do. I feel like an operations person, and it doesn't even have to be like a newer operations person. I think that's like a long-term investment. Like because you're basically bringing somebody in to be you inside of the company, which is very difficult if you've never hired somebody and offloaded your knowledge. That's not something that I think that can take 3 months or even 6 months. I think, and this is what's kind of happened with you, Ariel, like I think that is a multi-year, long-term process that requires a lot of patience, not because the person is going to like won't be able to figure it out, but like you're asking somebody to do a whole lot of different things and do it exactly in the way that you would want it done. And then also beyond that, like it's not even really just about having it done exactly the way you want. Like with an operations person or an integrator, it's giving them the freedom to do it the way that they see best. And that's very difficult to let that go because they are going to make mistakes sometimes. And that's just part of it. Nobody is going to be able to figure out everything perfectly their first time. And so you have to have this like level of patience where you give somebody enough leeway to do things their own way, experiment, try something and fail. Because if you do it the right way, then they take like more ownership of it, and then they feel confident and don't feel like they're being micromanaged. So the whole thing was I was just telling them like, if you're going to go the operations route, like this is a long-term project, and you're going to have a lot of patience. You're going to have to really teach them a lot, and you're going to have to let them do things that even if like in a way that you might not do it, versus the specialist where it's like just hire the person within 90 days, you should be able to get them trained up and ready to go. So I think that's very important for anybody that's thinking about like, do I need an integrator? Like it's a commitment and you should treat it that way. But if you do that, then you get, I think, the most value out of that hire. And that just building that relationship.
What do you think, Ashley? What's for somebody who's thinking about becoming an integrator, what's one thing that they should know?
You got to have a lot of trust with your visionary. You really, I mean, that's going to be like your second marriage. Like your visionary is going to be, you're going to spend the most amount of time with them, almost as much as like your normal spousal unit or your family. So you guys very much need to be in alignment. And if you're not, you're going to keep having issues.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually had a moment this weekend, Bobby. I almost like sent you something in Slack and I was like, I've spent way too much time with Bobby this past week. I need a break. I'll wait till Monday.
That's smart.
Not that you're not a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing, I agree with all those things. I think the other thing that I would add is I heard somebody refer to integrators the other day as that we have a fire drill job. Like you are the person who responds to the fire drill. And so you have to be there, be present to hear the fire drill going off. And that sounds like you can't like take a break or vacation or anything. And you certainly can. And you just have to like make sure the right people know what to do if something were to happen. But just be prepared for that. You know, like, does that sound like something that's interesting to you? I do kind of love that, the chaos of that, you know, managing the chaos a little bit in those situations. They drive me crazy, but then it also like, there's something that like tickles my brain in a good way in those situations. Not that I'm like asking for any fire alarms to go off at any point in the near future. But yeah, just like if that's something that you think would be difficult for you to handle, then might not be the right thing. But if you kind of like being the person who steps in, solves problems in those situations, and could be a good fit for sure. Anything else, you two? No? Okay, well, cool. Well, we'll wrap things up. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Money Shop. We hope you learned a little bit more about what integrators do. And maybe if you are interested in becoming one or run a company where you're thinking an integrator might be a role you need to hire for, I would highly recommend reading the book Rocket Fuel. It really defines the visionary role and the integrator role, how they work together. And then there's a whole bunch of other books by EOS published through EOS that are about, you know, talk about the integrator and visionary roles, but really the whole system overall. But Rocket Fuel is the one to start with. if you are curious at all about these things. So thank you guys so much, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Thanks.